Hey friends, welcome back to the Disney Housewife channel. If you're new, my name's Heather. Today's video is so exciting. I am collabing with Nina over at Wrestling with Disney. We are doing the Disney Princess book tag. She found this tag somewhere on the YouTube verse and asked me if I wanted to do it for Vlogmas, and I said absolutely. I'm so excited. Sign me up. We've kind of went down a rabbit hole and I'm here for it. I'm here for every bit of it. Give me all the books all the time. In this tag there are 12 princess prompts that I will be sharing with you. In each one of them I have to share a book. So some of these books I no longer have in my possession. Some of them I will talk about and then others will just kind of go through, so this is not a very long video. Otherwise I would be here talking about books all day. Number 1, Snow White, share your favorite classic. Now I know this is not going to be a typical classic when you think of true classic books. However, I chose A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. I think that's how you say the name. Anyway, the lady at the center of this has two suitors like pursuing her, both wanting to be with her, and she basically has to find out which will be a better choice for her in the long run and who is going to make her happy. And to me, there's nothing more classic than romance and trying to figure out your future and your true love, so I decided to go with that one. Number 2, Cinderella, a book you kept reading past bedtime. And let me tell you guys, I have read my entire life, but I am not a night owl by any sense of the means. So a book to keep me up past bedtime has got to be a good book, okay? I went down the rabbit hole with the Twilight series. Twilight is the only book I have ever stayed up past midnight to read. I'm just going with midnight because Cinderella, the clock strikes midnight, so I'm going with that. I ended up staying well past 2:30 in the morning to finish this book and immediately started New Moon. So this series really held me for quite some time. I read the entire series and then I started all over again once I was done. This book, this series had me. I still love it so much. I have since purchased Midnight Sun to go with the collection. I have not read it yet. I've probably in like 4 chapters and I just wasn't in the right headspace to read it at the time. But I will definitely get back to it to say I've read the complete series. But yeah, this really held me and is probably my favorite book series of all time. Please don't come for me. Number 3 is Princess Aurora, your favorite classic romance. And this is a book I'm not gonna stay on. I'm just gonna tell you the book and move on to the next prompt. My favorite classic romance is Pride and Prejudice. I don't care if it's the book or the movie, I absolutely love it. If you haven't read it, if you haven't seen any of the movie adaptations, I highly suggest that you do that. Number 4, Princess Ariel, a book about making sacrifices and not giving up on your dreams. The book I chose for this one is The Die from Clausen's Pier. It was such a good book. It made me so angry and so happy at the same time. There is a girl who is dating a guy and they are in a really long loving relationship, but she started falling out of love, didn't really want to be with the guy anymore. She started thinking about dreams of her own and what she wanted to do with her life. And then a tragic accident happens and she's torn, like, do I live my life and do what I want because I'm not tied to him in any way, shape, or form? Do I go live my life? Or do I stay here and do what's right and to be with him? So in the end, she does go off and do her own thing. And that's all I'm really gonna say. It does kind of come around full circle at the end as well, but I really do love that book. It's one of my favorites of all time, actually. And it was a Good Morning America recommendation years ago, like right when the book came out. It was a recommendation and I went out and got it immediately. I no longer have a copy of it anymore because I lend books out sometimes and don't get them back. So I no longer have that in my collection, but I highly recommend it and I'll end up replacing it as well because I would love to read it again. Number 5, Belle, a book with a smart, independent character in it. I feel like you guys are totally gonna laugh at me when you see my choice for this, and this is Something Borrowed by Emily Giffin. I absolutely loved this series. I'm not a huge fan of all of her writing style, but I really do love this series, and I read these when they first came out as well. And this story follows best friends Rachel and Darcy, and Darcy is like the free, fun-loving, like she still has an education, but she's the free, fun-loving, doesn't give a flip about her anything. She always gets what she wants. And Rachel is powerful and she is so independent and she is living her life, but she's always living it on the sidelines of her best friend. And then there's a series of events and all of that jazz. I'm trying really not to ruin these books for you if you've never read them. Most of them have been out for a very long time, so I don't feel like that I would be ruining it if you are an avid reader. But Rachel is absolutely why I chose this book. All right, I'm gonna have to read this one because this is a long one. Number 6 is Jasmine, a book with a character who has challenged social norms of his or her world. So for this one, I chose The Kitchen House. This is by Kathleen Grissom. Phenomenal book. I've read this so many times. It is so good. I've lent it out and actually got it back. I love this book. I love it. There's a lot of things in here that are very hard to read. There are a lot of things in here that are hard to witness. There is like an opioid addiction in here. The Kitchen House, it takes place at the turn of the 19th century in the tobacco fields of Virginia, and basically there is a white girl from Ireland who is purchased into slavery, and there are black women of the family who actually take her on and her grow, and even though there are racial differences, beautiful woman in here who takes her on as her own daughter and helps raise her and help teach her the ways of the kitchen house. It's just a very beautiful book, and their bond and how they help each other, and it was heartbreaking. It was beautiful. It was a book that really grabbed me from the beginning, and it is actually a blue ribbon, National Blue Ribbon book. So I really do love this, and this is actually worth me reading a third time, fourth time. Well, how many times I've ever read it, I'm definitely due to read that again in 2021. Number 7, Pocahontas, a book whose ending was a roller coaster of emotions. And I chose for that Unravel by Kalia Reed, however you want to say her name. Oh my gosh, this book messed with my brain so much. So you hear a story of two best friends, and one is looking out for the other because a tragic event happened to her. And if you were sensitive to anything where abuse is related, I would not recommend reading this book. If you were sensitive to that, I would not recommend it. It's very detailed in one section, and I was not ready for that. I did not expect it. A psychological journey, if you will. It really messed with my head quite a bit, and I was not expecting the end at all. And I sat there with the end, and I literally threw this book in my kitchen floor. I'm like, what just happened? And I picked it back up and I just read it again, and I'm like, seriously, that just happened. I was not expecting that at all. Like, you read one thing and then flip the switch at the end, and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? I do like those kind of books. I don't like it to be super predictable, which is saying something since I read so much Nicholas Sparks. But I really did like this book, aside from that one graphic scene that was pretty rough to read, actually. So this was perfect for that category. Number 8, Mulan, a book with a kick-butt female character. And for this one, I chose Time is a River by Mary Alice Monroe. She is an author from the Carolinas, and I really do enjoy her work. This book was so phenomenal. This is one I would definitely read again. And this follows a main character who was diagnosed with breast cancer, went through the trenches of it, only to find out that her husband had been cheating on her. And therefore she had to pick up her bootstraps and, you know, move on with her life. There's nothing more kick butt than going through cancer and cancer treatment. And then on top of that, having to start over, like your marriage was crumbled and everything, and just starting over with that and finding out who you are now. Because honestly, I can say on this side of reading the book, I read this years ago, you know, it does change you. It does change who you are. It changes everything, your thought process. You're no longer really the same person. So it's a huge testimony to your spouse if they stick around, because you really go through so many shades of different people during that process, and you know, you do have to figure out who you are after that. Like, nothing's ever the same. So the fact that she has to do that alone and not in her marriage is, like, hands down phenomenal. She's a phenomenal character. Takes up fly fishing and reads these old diaries and letters that were left behind by a like an award-winning fly fisher, I guess that's what you would call it. I'm not sure. She's legendary fly fisher, excuse me, not award-winning, I don't know. But it follows the path of that female fly fisher, and then she kind of takes it up learning to do it as well. So it was a whole wonderful book about her journey and what she was going through, so nothing more kick butt than this. Number 9, and I sadly do not even have a book for this category, and I'm so bummed. I have racked my brain trying to figure out a book for this category, and I do not have one. I'm gonna read the prompt for you anyway, and then we'll move on to number 10. But number 9 is Tiana, a book where the character puts her dreams above her romance. And I at first had to dive from Clausen's Pier on there, and I'm like, I mean, it could have went for both categories. So if I can cheat and add that one back in there too, then I will totally do that. But other than that, I did not have one for that category. Number 10, Rapunzel, a book that features an artist. Also, this one was very hard for me, so this is gonna be a very generic answer. Oh my gosh, is it Nora Roberts? I chose The Search. And I know I'll be putting all of the books up here as well, but I want to say it's Nora Roberts. I think I'm getting her confused with someone else right now and it's messing with my head. But I believe it is Nora Roberts. So the main character, Fiona, in this novel, she has gone through a series of things. She ends up training dogs on her property, and one day this man comes up with a very out of control puppy. I want to say his name was Max. I think his name was Max. Anyway, and then she kind of forms a relationship with the owner of the dog. She finds out that he is a very talented artist who creates exquisite furniture. So that was the closest I could come to with that category. I know it's like not artist in the sense that when we're thinking about paintings or things like that or pottery, but there's so many different art forms that like I'm counting that. I'm absolutely counting it. Number 11, Merida, a book with a mother-daughter relationship. This one might be controversial as well, because when we think of mother-daughter relationships, we think of a loving bond, but that's not for everyone. Sometimes those kind of relationships can be very toxic, and that is why I chose White Oleander. I actually watched the movie before I read the book, but I loved both of them very, very much. This book follows a girl named Astrid whose mother has gone to prison for killing her boyfriend, and she is tossed from foster home to foster home. So I felt like White Oleander basically showed the effects that toxic mothers can have on the people that we become. So I felt like that was a good choice, because not everything is Hallmark and sunshine and roses, and I mean, some people do go through those things. So I felt like that was a nice choice to kind of put a little twist on that category. Number 12, and the very last prompt, is Anna and Elsa share a book with a relationship between siblings. Now this one is a little bit probably controversial and unconventional as well, but I chose The Memory Keeper's Daughter. There is a woman who is pregnant with twins, and one is born with Down syndrome, and the dad whisks the child away, gives it to the nurse, and says put it in an institution. I don't know why, but that happened because the book was set a long time ago when that was socially acceptable and the norm. I still don't get it, but whatever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because we're here to talk about books. The nurse leaves to give the child and herself a fresh start. It's very, very twisty, separate lives that the families live, and the mother is so unsettled with the whole fact that, you know, they actually told her that her daughter died. The dad was very unsettled because he tried to hide the past for so long and was trying to bury it, and he finally passes away, and so the nurse finds out about that, and she reaches out, kind of tells the mother the truth, you know, tells the brother the truth that, hey, you have a sister. They bond over music, and they just really bonded so well, and it's such a beautiful story, beautiful reunion, and a beautiful connection. Like, it really was heartwarming to read after such a tragedy and after such sadness. I really enjoyed that book so much. That is gonna do it for this Disney Princess book tag. I hope that you enjoyed it. It was something fresh, fun, and new to do here. Thank you so much, Nina, for asking me to do this with you. I am going to tag a few people. So I would like to tag Nicole at Irresistible Magic, Alicia from Cinderella Loves Disney, Taryn at Twinkle Bell Taryn, and Mina over at Book Skywalker. I hope that all of you will do this book tag. It was so much fun to do, and it really got me thinking about all these categories. If this is something that you would like to see more often on this channel, then please let me know in the comments below. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!